The Welsh Government have done their best to step up to the crisis despite the underfunding from Westminster. The Prime Minister was keen to pose for cameras when there's a crisis on during the election, but he often goes AWOL. He was late to respond to the London riots because he was on holiday. He was on a private island when the Iranian general was assassinated. And last week, he was with his head in the sands in a mansion in Kent. The MP for Calder Valley, another of his colleagues, said it's not good enough. How can the country trust a Prime Minister, a part-time Prime Minister? Last night, schmoozing Tory party donors at a very expensive black-tie ball, instead of getting out there and supporting the people who are suffering because of the floods. This government needs to step up to the plate and invest in defences and ensure there is real insurance for people whose homes are being ruined by these floods as we speak.
Mr. Speaker, the right honourable gentleman asked what this government has been doing in the last few days. Well, let me tell you, not only have we been investing massively in flood defences and compensating those who suffered from flooding, but we've been stopping the early release of terrorists. We've restored the nurses' bursary. We're beginning work on 40 new hospitals. We're recruiting 20,000 more police officers. And we can do that, Mr. Speaker, because we have a strong and dynamic economy with employment at record highs, unemployment down to the lowest levels since the early 70s, wages going up, home ownership up. And what are they doing, Mr. Speaker? They're still deciding. Listen to them jabbering away, Mr. Speaker. Jabbering away.
I think we'll have a little bit more silence on the second Prime Minister.
Quite right, Mr. Speaker. Jabbering away because they still can't decide whether or not they want to be in the European Union. And the hottest topic of debate in the Labour Party is what job should the right honourable gentleman have in the shadow cabinet after the leadership election. Mr. Speaker, they are engaging themselves in narcissistic debate about the Labour Party. We are getting on in delivering on the people's priorities.
The Prime Minister will be aware of the concern in settled rural communities such as those in North East Hertfordshire because of intentional, unauthorised development of travellers' sites. This leads to large numbers of lorries, large numbers of caravans coming onto land where there's no planning permission, and then subsequently the ignoring of enforcement when the local authority tries to intervene. The government has said that it will bring forward measures to try and tackle these planning issues. Will the Prime Minister put his authority behind this and get it sorted out?
Mr. Speaker, I take that issue very seriously, and I thank my right honourable friend for raising it. We're giving local authorities more powers to reject intentional, unauthorised development, and we will be consulting on the details of those proposals in a forthcoming white paper, and I hope that he will contribute to those consultations.
In Blackfoot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, we learned that 40% of small businesses in Scotland employ more than one EU national. Mr. Speaker, immigration is crucial for Scotland's economy. So it's no wonder that the Scottish Government's proposals for a Scottish visa system have been universally welcomed by businesses and charities alike. Even the Scottish Tories think it's a good idea. The Prime Minister rejected these proposals within a few short hours. Does he now admit this was a mistake?
Mr. Speaker, it was not only I who rejected the proposal, but also, of course, the Migration Advisory Committee, and that is because we are bringing forward a very sensible proposal which the people of this country have long desired, whereby we take back control of our immigration system with a points-based system, and we will ensure, because the right honourable gentleman has an important concerns to raise, we will ensure that everywhere in this country, all businesses, all agricultural sectors, all the fishing communities in this country will be able to access the labour and the workforce that they need under our points-based system. But what will be the height of insanity, Mr. Speaker, would be to proceed with the SNP's solution of a border at Berwick between England and Scotland.
Once again, the Prime Minister shows he is utterly delusional. Let's look at the reality. Scottish Care has said that the Prime Minister's damaging immigration plans shut the door on enabling people to be cared for in their own home. The General Secretary of the GMB Union says the plans could genuinely tip businesses over the edge. Scotland's National Farmers Union have said their evidence has been disregarded by the UK Government. And the Scottish Tourism Alliance say their plans will have devastating impact for Scotland's workforce. We know, Mr Speaker, that senior figures in the UK Government have said what the Scottish Parliament decides, and I quote, doesn't matter one jot. If the Prime Minister thinks the Scottish Parliament doesn't matter, the Scottish businesses matter, Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, of course Scottish businesses matter, and the way to do well by Scottish businesses would not be to tax them with the highest tax rates in the UK. It would be to run a sound economy in Scotland. It would be to have an educational system that doesn't leave Scottish children lagging behind through no fault of their own. Mr Speaker, this government will get on and deliver a working immigration system for the whole of this country. And I may say respectfully to the right honourable gentleman who shouts at me from a sedentary position that once again he would be better off getting on with delivering for the people of Scotland rather than continuing with his ceaseless and vain quest to break up the United Kingdom, because he will not succeed.
Laura Trott.
Is delivering for the people. So I'm sure the Prime Minister shares my concerns about the delay in the delivery of the Maidstone East line, which runs through my constituency and others. Will the Prime Minister intervene to ensure there are no further delays in this vital railway line?
Mr Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for rightly raising the issue of rail connections with Maidstone East and the City, and I can tell her that in addition to the £48 billion that we are putting into the railways, my right honourable friend, the Secretary of Transport, has just indicated to me that those connections are his highest priority.
Docker to use.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Graham was born with cerebral palsy, unable to talk, walk or feed himself. He brought joy and love to all who knew him. And last week, one of the Prime Minister's advisers resigned when a basic check of their internet history revealed that they had promoted eugenicist policies, the sort that would have ended my brother Graham Docherty's life before it began. So can I ask the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom to advise the House and every disabled person in this island why Andrew Zabiskie remained at the heart of his government and was not removed from their position immediately when their abhorrent views became apparent?
Mr Speaker, let's be absolutely clear that I certainly don't share those views, nor are the views of anybody in this government, and that individual no longer works for the government.
Second Batty.
Does the Prime Minister agree that through the establishment of the Office for Environmental Protection, which will hold this government and future governments to their environmental commitments, it is the Conservatives who are driving the environmental agenda? And will he join me in commending the Conservative-led Solihull Borough Council for their commitment to be carbon neutral by 2030?
Mr Speaker, it of course brings me a great joy to congratulate Solihull Borough Council on their path-breaking leadership. Of course, they are following in the footsteps of the national government and Right Honourable Lady for Maidenhead, who led the way in setting a carbon zero target by 2050. This Conservative government is going to leave our country, our environment, in a better state for the next generation.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I have a pregnant constituent with her due date in the next couple of weeks. She is currently on universal credit, and after deductions, including an advance, she is left with a grand sum of £111 a month to feed herself, to heat her home and to prepare for her child. Now, I know the Prime Minister will likely want more details about this case and will be happy to help, but I want to ask him, in principle, as the Prime Minister, does he think that £111 a month is enough for anyone to live on?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm of course very happy indeed to look at the case and to do whatever we can to help with the individual case. But I must say to her that in the round, universal credit has helped and is helping 200,000 people into work. There is an estimated 1 million disabled households who will get around £100 more per month as a result of universal credit. And I'm proud to stand by a record of helping people into work and off welfare. But as I said to her before, I'm more than happy to look at the case. And the answer to her question in a word is no.
Ben Bradley.
Mr. Speaker, just my right honourable friend agree with me that the people of Mansfield, who, like many millions across the country, previously voted Labour but now put their faith in a Conservative government to deliver, are not in fact traitors, as they've been branded by members of the party opposite this week. But in fact, this government and members on this side of the House respect these hard-working people and communities. We respect their choices and we will deliver for them.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to comment on the vituperation that is meted out by the party opposite, but what I will say is that all voters should be treated with respect and with humility. And I congratulate him on the hard work he's doing for the people of Mansfield. £10 million for West Nottinghamshire College, £20 million for road improvements, £5 million for proactive lung health screenings, and up to £50 million in a town New Deal and future high streets funding. In my view, the people of Mansfield are well served by my honourable friend.
Kate Osborne.
Mr. Speaker, like many other sub-postmasters, my constituent, Chris Head, was victim to the Post Office Horizon IT system scandal. These errors have resulted in bankruptcy, imprisonment and even suicides. Will the Prime Minister today assure Chris and others that he will commit to launching an independent inquiry?
Mr. Speaker, I am indeed aware of the scandal to which he alludes and the disaster that has befallen many post office workers, and I'm happy, and I've met some of them myself. I'm happy to commit to getting to the bottom of the matter in the way that she recommends.
Miriam Kate.
If you live in one of the rural villages in my constituency, it can take a whole day to travel to and from a hospital appointment because bus services are so few and far between. As a fellow bus enthusiast, will my right honourable friend assure me that some of the £5 billion in the pipeline for bus services will go towards improving routes in Penistone and Stocksbridge?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right about the vital importance of buses and their transformative power. But as for the detail about what will happen in Penistone and Stockbridge, she will have to await the upcoming national bus strategy, which will be along very shortly.